one thing that anybody learns if if you're upset about something or you know that something is wrong, which is what happened to me around the Vietnam War. And the reason that it happened is because I was married to a Frenchman living in Paris, and there was a group of young soldiers, American soldiers, who had fought in Vietnam and left, deserted, resisting the war, came to Paris looking for American compatriots to help them, get doctors and clothes and whatever. And they opened my eyes to the war. And what you discover whatever it is, if you dig down deep enough and you really study it, you start learning about everything else. You study Vietnam, you learn about racism, you learn about misogyny, you learn about imperialism, you learn about nationalism, you learn about everything. Everything is connected. There would be no climate crisis if it weren't for patriarchy. There'd be no climate crisis if there were no racism. It's a mindset that makes these things happen, and it's the mindset that we have to get rid of, but in the meantime we have to save the planet so we'll still be alive. Which brings me to the ocean. I grew up swimming every day in the Pacific Ocean. I love the ocean. I have scuba dived over coral reefs and all over the world, the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. I love the ocean. And the ocean is dying.
If we don't change our ways, do you think we're potentially heading towards mass extinction?
This is a blue planet. It's mostly water. And if this huge ocean, which is really just one ocean, dies, then yes, we do die. Yeah, we do. And that's why time is so much of the essence. It's the window of opportunity to prevent mass extinction is closing, and it's closing fast. This treaty that I'm here in New York to defend and fight for, it's the Global Ocean Treaty. People have been working on this for years, and countries haven't been able to agree on a lot of things, like the Global North, which includes England, Europe, Canada, and the United States, for example, Japan. We suffer from a case of greed. We don't want to say, okay, this section is off limits, nobody can fish here anymore, or we're not going to share the money that we might get from discovering, for example, that a sponge contains something that can save lives, so it becomes part of the pharmaceutical world, making a lot of money for the United States. We haven't been willing to share that with the Global South. And one of the big things that's going to be decided at this treaty is the amount of money that is given to the Global South. They need money to make sure that the treaty works, that they can do their research to see what is being killed and what isn't. They need help. We caused the problems, we in the Global North, they didn't. And yet they, Africa, the Pacific Islanders, all the islands, for example, Indonesia, East Asia, these are the people that are going to suffer first and foremost from climate. And we have to be sure that they have what they need to fight back.
The smaller countries, island countries, which will face the brunt of climate change, and we'll see the change in the temperature in the oceans as well. Should countries like the US and UK also be willing to, potentially, if these people become displaced and become climate refugees, should they open their borders and allow these people to come in?
We have to develop a whole new mechanism for dealing with refugees, because there's going to be more than we can ever imagine. And they have to be led into the countries that can support them and sustain them, and we certainly can.
As we know, as human beings, we tend to struggle to give up the things we love. So how do we cut through and get people on the ground to understand what is at stake?
We have to be disruptors. All of us have to be disruptors, because the status quo is not sustainable. You can't sustain a democracy when you have some people that are multi-billionaires and some people who literally, if they had a crisis, don't have $20 in their pockets. It doesn't work. doesn't work for long. We can't sustain it. So we have to change a lot of things, and all of the changes have been shown would improve life, not the contrary, which is what the oil companies are trying to convince us of.
A lot of your admirers will watch this and they will say, you've been shouting about this issue for such a long time. Why don't Jane Fonda perhaps
Shut up and go home?
No, perhaps think about running for elected office.
Because it's not what I'd be good at. I'm the one, somebody else has the good ideas. I then have to be working with them within an organization, not as an individual. You can't really do that much as an individual. And then I'm the one that goes out and I'm the cheerleader. Because I'm famous, because I'm an actress, and so I can get people involved, and that's what my role is, not coming up with the ideas.
In terms of just all your fundraising and the activism that you've done over the years, is there anything that you've learned and that you're sort of practicing today? Because I know you talk about Greta Thunberg and how she inspired you. Is there anything that you saw back then that's sort of driving you nowadays as well?
What's driving me is I don't have that much longer to live, and I want to use every ounce of my abilities to prevent catastrophe, to working with Greenpeace to keep the ecosystems from collapsing. And oceans are, I think, that the ecosystem that we depend on the most for our lives. And I love oceans, and I love the animals that live in the oceans, and I want to save them and save us in the process. I mean, not me alone, but working with other people like you're going to see today.